2024, you were actually deployed to the Western Cape. Can you explain the deployment, the purpose of the deployment, and when you then returned back to the head office?
Thank you, Commissioners. As part of protocols and as a requirement, all senior officers in the SAPS are deployed in support of provinces during the festive season. And the rationale is for us to monitor and oversee police operations in that particular area where you are deployed. So I was deployed in the Western Cape in support of General Pategile, who's the PC for Western Cape. And that would mean also doing your field, how can I call it? We also go to the field where we do stop and searches, we do roadblocks, we make sure that there's visibility in the province, as well as we also assist the members and guide them in terms of doing your tracking and also our tracing of wanted suspects.
Thank you, General. And when did you then return to head office?
I returned back to head office on the 3rd of January. However, I already had submitted my pre-planned leave that took place from the 6th, returning back to work on the 17th of January, 2025.
Thank you, General. You then say on your return to work, you had an informal discussion with Lieutenant General Khumalo. Can you tell the Commission about that interaction and what you were discussing?
Maybe before I start, I want to provide context in terms of my relationship with General Khumalo. And I know that this maybe also will touch on Commissioner Khumalo. I actually grew up Kosi Khumalo, and that is my father's surname. However, when I went to high school, when I was doing standard 8 at the time, I wanted to honor my grandfather who raised me, and that's a Mavimbela. So literally, I changed my surname back to Mavimbela, and I became Kosi Mavimbela. So me and Dumisani Khumalo, General Khumalo, we call each other Boti Ngosisi. So uti siswami ngithi bhuti wami. And normally we don't ever have a serious, intense interaction. I mean, even with all these challenges, we don't have hey, come sit down. It's still Budwami, Siswami, and it's still Mama Uti. So I came back from leave, we meet, I can't remember where, but it was in one of the meetings. And he said to me, Siswami, uboss wakho uthi mangunikeza ama Dockets we PKTT. Just like that. And we ngabuza ngobani. Then he says to me, no, uthi uMinister unikeze a directive that those Dockets should come to the detectives. He says no, he gave him that instruction in writing. So I then said to General Khumalo, unfortunately, so mina ngiyiphoyisa. Uba iphoyisa means ukuthi when you instruct me, it must be in writing. And I think the discussion didn't go further. But also what prompted my mind at the time was, Kodu Khumalo has been the project coordinator of this task team from 2018. And I was there. I think when the meeting was called by Minister Kele, we were all invited. I think it was myself, General Ramatswele. Ramatswele was the section head for, at the time it was called specific crimes. Now it's called serious violent crimes. It was me, him, it was General Tsumane was the DNC at the time. General Musikiri was the divisional commissioner at the time. So we were all invited to that meeting that took place in General Mkhwanazi's office, and he was the acting provincial commissioner. So he wasn't telling me something that I didn't know, because I would have prompted to understand what are you talking about. So I knew. And as far as I knew, he was doing well. When Minister Kele came and General Khumalo was appointed as the head of CI, I think a decision was taken that he actually proceeds with that role. And all of us supported it. So there was no way that now I could come and say, now bring me the Dockets. I needed to understand why. And for me, it was not in writing, so I couldn't act on it. And by the way, I think the commissioner spoke about Bo Mabari Bari. I didn't want to rely on Mabari Bari. I wanted something I could read. Thank you, commissioners.
General, somewhere in your statement, you mentioned the reason why the Dockets had to come to head office.
Yes.
And on that, you take issue, if I understand correctly, with the reason that was given by General Motsepe.
Okay.
Do I understand the position
Yes.
correctly? Yes.
Yes.
What I'm not sure comes out clearly from your statement is whether you personally were told what that reason was, and who, if you were told, the person that told you was. And
To bring
at
the
what
Dockets to
stage?
Pretoria.
Why must the Dockets come to head office?
Okay.
Who told you and at what stage?
Nobody told me and Kumalo that the Dockets must come to Pretoria. The letters, okay, eventually I got my letter on the 2nd of February. And I think just after that, the minister called a meeting in Cape Town, where he basically, I think it was an orientation meeting where we had to present to him specific topics. And I think mine was on the capacitation of the detectives. And unfortunately, lo and behold, on the 6th of February, my nephew Tato was fatally wounded, and I had to return home on the day because I couldn't cope. So for that reason, I think I took leave to be able to assist my family in making sure that Tato gets to rest appropriately. On returning, now Kumalo and I, we both had instructions that said, you, General Kumalo, in your capacity as the project manager for the PKTT, hand over the dockets to General Senthumule, who is the Divisional Commissioner for Detective and Forensic Services. And I think the instructions were clear because if you look at it, it actually stated how the handover should take place. So Kumalo and I, he already had, I think, the National Commissioner's letter, which I never had view of. I relied on him when he said to me, the NATCOM had already written to the minister to provide a winding down approach proposal for his approval, for the minister's approval.
And your February letter was from General Sibiya.
General Sibiya, yes.
And it said nothing about the reason for the dockets to be brought to head office.
Maybe if the chairperson could allow me to read it into the record.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. I think it should be on the other bundle, HKS2. Okay. The letter read as such. The South African Police Service established the National Task Team on Political Killings to address the concerning rise in politically motivated murders and related crimes involving political figures. This specialized task team was dedicated to investigating, resolving, and preventing such incidents to ensure justice and maintain political stability in affected regions. On 31 December 2024, the Minister of Police issued a directive to the National Commissioner to immediately deactivate and disband the NTT-PK, which we call the PKTT. And he said in his letter, this decision was informed by an assessment that the task team no longer significantly contributed to policing efforts. So that's the only reason provided, that it no longer significantly contributed to policing efforts. But there was, for me, that's the only reason that I know. And I think coming from intelligence and compartmentalization, that is all that I worked on the instruction.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair.
General, maybe while you are on the letter, can you please read paragraph 5 into the record?
Okay. In compliance with the aforementioned directive of the Minister of Police, you are directed, which is it's an instruction with steps, if you look at what it means, to engage with the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence with a view to do a proper handing over and to follow all processes to conduct a handing over process. And this includes, but not limited to, a report of all cases in terms of their status, a case register wherein all the cases were recorded and the current status of court-going cases and cases under investigation. All cases or projects, documentation relevant to the Political Killings Task Team, the PKTT. These should include all evidentiary material, documents, electronic recordings, etc. It must be booked into the SAP S13 or in possession of the team or stored in any storage facility. All human and physical resources allocated, listed, as well as a report on all financial expenditure for the duration of the operations of the task team. That ends paragraph 5, Commissioner.
General, that 5.3,
Yes.
is that in short, is that a reference to the dockets? Is this where the
Yes,
instruction
I think
says you must take
5.3,
over?
can I say actually all of them except for number 5.4, they refer to dockets.
Okay. All right.
Because General Khumalo had to provide me with the state of where those investigations were, which he did, I think, in the plan that we developed.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Bowe, I would like to ask something about paragraph 6, but if you're still going to deal with the letter, if you were planning to deal with the letter in your own way, I would rather leave it to that point.
Commissioner Baloyi, I was going to proceed chronologically from where we are. So if we want to deal with paragraph...
I'll postpone it. I'm happy to postpone it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you. General, in that paragraph 6, which you haven't read,
Yes.
and I'll read it. It says, it is advised that the Divisional Commissioner, Detective and Forensic Services, that's you,
Yes.
okay, ensures that the case/investigations are taken care of to ensure that cases are not lost in court because of the deactivation and disbandment of the task team. I want to just understand how it works. You are at National. The PKTT dockets are
In
cases.
KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes.
Yes.
Ordinarily, how would it work? You are now being told you must ensure cases. What does it mean practically you would do? And does this reflect how, this kind of instruction, how ordinarily you would engage with provincial dockets, or was this something out of the norm, your involvement here, as in paragraph 6?
If I may clarify, Chairperson or Commissioner, and I will take you back to 2018 when the team was established. The team, though based in the province, was a national task team. That's why General Ramatswele was the first project manager, and General Maqashalala. And General Maqashalala moved to the Western Cape. General Ramatswele retired. General Khumalo was appointed when he got promoted to level 14 general or 2-star general. So he was running a national project. That's why even the budgeting would come from national. That's why even the reporting will include all of us. So in essence, what General Sibiya meant here was that I take over as the project manager. That's the understanding.
You would take over from General Khumalo?
Yes.
That's what it would mean.
That's what actually he requested.
Okay.
And maybe just over and above what he wrote, it's also what he said, that General Khumalo was in crime intelligence, and therefore the investigations belong to detectives. Sure. Thank you, Chairperson.
And what's the significance of open quote advised, close quote, as opposed to, for example, instructed?
The instruction is already given. So he already instructed, and he gave probably a framework of how this instruction should be executed. Now he says, over and above what you're going to do, you must make sure that chain of custody, documentation related to the dockets, but also court processes don't get interfered with. Thank you.
Thank you.
General, just to take a step back, you were still in January
Yes.
when you note at paragraph 16 that General Sibiya also followed up after your conversation with General Khumalo about whether or not you're going to get the dockets. Can you explain that interaction?
No, thank you very much, Commissioners. Still in January, and I must say, Commissioners, I don't remember the date. We were in his office. Normally, he would call meetings in the morning, and I think post that meeting, then he asked me if I had engaged with General Khumalo on the handover of the PKTG dockets. My response to him was that much as General Khumalo has spoken to me, I didn't take the matter forward because he at least had something in writing, I didn't. So I couldn't go ahead with the instruction, and therefore if he wanted me to proceed with that instruction, he had to reduce it into writing, or in writing.
And General, just to confirm, at this stage you had not been furnished with the directive that the minister issued in December?
To date, I have actually not laid my hands on that directive.
Can I just go back a bit? So when you first encounter General Khumalo
Yes.
on your return to work in January, was that the first time that you became aware of this decision? Or someone spoke to you, maybe let me be more specific, that someone said anything to you about this decision of the disbandment?
Yeah. You know, I think after the July 6 press briefing by General Mkhonas, I realized that actually I've never even seen this writing. Not on social media, I don't think I came across it. Nobody even showed it to me. So when it happened, I think maybe it's because the critical 2 weeks I was not on duty. Maybe if I was, I would have been made aware either by General Sibiya himself, but no copy was ever shared. And it was actually for the first time that I heard from General Khumalo that the team was being disbanded. And again, it didn't provide reasons. Like I said, it was just, so for me, that was just, in jest actually. Yes.
And before, we know the decision was communicated at least on the 31st of December. At any point before this discussion with General Khumalo, so I'm going back even to 2024, had you ever become aware of an intention or a conversation to disband the PKTT?
No. No, Chair.
And if there was such consideration or even discussion, by virtue of your position, and please explain a bit if you're able to, would you have expected to have been part of that conversation?
I think in actual, I'm covering this later in the statement, but maybe let me say it was business unusual, where you just have a decision like that to say disband the structure. Normally, what would happen, we actually would be called into a meeting where all the teams, we've got a number of intervention teams throughout the country, and then we manage those through the structure called NCCF, and they then, General Musigidi is the chairperson, so they would come provide progress report and we assess whether the intervention is working or not. And I think it is in that meeting where then, whether it's General Musikidi or the National Commissioner can say, we then can start decommissioning the team. So not only myself, crime intelligence would be there, visible policing will be there, forensic services will be there, because we all deploy our capacities in support of the team.
Thank you.
And General, just to go back into, you note that you also attended some of the IMC meetings where feedback was given on the performance of the task team. What were your observations of the performance?
In the police, we have what we call a 5-pillar approach when we do interventions. That means mobilization of all your competencies, intelligence, you've got your proactive, number 3, it's combat, so that will be your TRT, national intervention and task force if it's required, or POP. And we also have number 4, that's the detectives and the NPA within that pillar. Then number 5 will be communication. So General Khumalo went over and above that concept. He actually, in my assessment, established a one-stop shop where you get everything under one roof. So I had to deploy, for example, ballistics experts in that team that were not sitting at forensic, were sitting actually with the team. So that when there are firearms recovered or actually any material relating to a firearm, they would immediately process that. But also he had members who, like the DFOs, who will do inspections on firearms. I remember in one of the successes where a consignment of firearms was discovered from a dealer, and not all of them were registered, and some of them were linked to crime. So in my assessment, it was the best practice. I even asked him to say, Mbulaz, I'll share a pillar, this operational approach in terms of now what they used as a framework to assess the progress. So it was working. And in the last IMC that I attended, 2022, if my memory serves me correct, because really I think some of the dates, as you grow older, you lose them. In that meeting, it was mentioned that the team should be strengthened and enhanced, particularly because of its effectiveness. And also it was said that the team should continue.
Thank you, General.
Can I just ask a follow-up question, Advocate?
Yes.
I'm going to take the General back. Commissioner Baloy asked you about whether in the normal course you should have been involved in the discussion leading to the disbandment. I want to focus on the after, because in paragraph 9.7 of your statement, you say, as part of your role, you are responsible for liaison and collaboration with other stakeholders, including the NPA. Now, there's this letter of February 2025. You are aware of the disbandment, but you say you were not given the disbandment directive. Would it have been your role then to notify the NPA in KZN that, listen, the PKTT has been disbanded, there's an instruction to take the dockets and reallocate them to detectives? Please note that the structure you had in place is no longer going to work. This is now the new structure that is going to be in place. Would that have been part of your responsibilities?
Let me start responding to you by saying that this was business unusual, because we do have monthly meetings, for example, with the DPP of KwaZulu-Natal, not only on PKTT, but also we've got extortions committees, we've got CITs. So in those meetings, if I co-chair, then it is my role to then say to the team, we have not just the NPA, to everybody who's part of the team, to say, we have a new directive and this requires that maybe we review our way of moving forward. I don't think here, for me, things happened. For starters, General Mkwana should have been the first person to be notified. people have got a misnomer in their minds.
Sorry to
It's
interrupt
okay.
you.
Yes.
General Mokgotsi should have been the first person to be
To be
notified
notified.
about the disbandment.
Yes.
Okay, continue
Yes.
from there.
Yes, because, and I hear people throwing this, you are the custodian of the detectives or the dockets. The provincial commissioner is empowered by the Act to look at all issues crime in the province. When we work at national, we work in conjunction with the province. General Mokgotsi, because he and General Khumalo were responsible, if you look at the minutes, they were the ones reporting on the progress of the PKTT, not the divisional commissioner, not General Khumalo in his capacity as the divisional commissioner for crime intelligence. So General Mokgotsi would have been, as the chairperson for the province, engaged with the DPP as they do even currently. So to answer your question, it would not have been in my position to actually inform all the role players of the disbandment.
Don't forget your point about the misnomer. You had just started saying something about a misnomer.
Yes, and no, it's about, and I remember, I won't mention the general, who went on TV and said, the dockets are mine. And I think that's why we are here, where we are today. At national, we don't own the dockets. The dockets belongs to a province. And the provincial commissioner, if I were to use the Kasi language, he's the last number of the province. I deal with General Mtombeni about dockets, General from Limpopo, General Khatev. I just don't decide. I engage with them because they are the people who are accountable for the stations and the workload of the stations.
And General, so now we are in February. You've already talked about.
Sorry, just to go back to, I think just to satisfy the chairperson. So this notion that you are the custodian of the dockets, maybe of the systems of managing the dockets, because in my role, I need to be able to provide the National Commissioner with the picture of the detective performance at national. For example, are we resolving on murder? Are we resolving on hijackings? I own the system. So I'm able to extract data that can give patterns. Let's say in Gauteng, we know that Gauteng actually holds the bulk of our crime. If I look at hijackings, if it's red, then I know that we need to intervene in Gauteng. So that is my role. Not that I can call dockets in. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, General.
Not that it's not permitted, but actually it must be done in conjunction with the provincial commissioner.
So whoever may have told Mr. Mokgotsi, whoever the subs, may have told Mr. Brown Mokgotsi that the dockets are going to General Sibiya because they belong to him, would have misled him, if anyone told him that at all. They would not have been correct.
I am tempted to answer the commissioner, but I think my response would be in this manner. You can read between the lines. I submit. Thank you.
I shall not ask you, what do you mean?
General, sorry, I need you to clarify something. As I understand what you're saying, there's a difference between overall responsibility for dockets and physical custody of an individual docket or a group of dockets. Can you just clarify that for me so that I understand the difference between the two?
The structure for detectives is as follows, okay? You have the DNC, you have the divisional commissioner, you have the component heads, but to the DNC or the DEFCOM, you've got a dotted line with the deputy provincial commissioners. The DPCs are responsible, because they report to the PCs, for the dockets in the province. At national, if I were to, because I report on all dockets, even your high profile, at national, then that would be the divisional commissioner. but the PCs in the respective provinces have an authority based on the constitution to actually deal with. Even when you look at our directives, it talks about the station commander, not a component head at national, responsible for the safeguarding, safekeeping of dockets. So in that manner, I'm trying to say, at national, much as we do have that leeway because we are at national, but we can never do anything on dockets without involving the province. If there's a complaint that is submitted on an investigation that is not probably done properly, or the family is not getting joy, we get involved, and if they say they would like the docket to be moved to DPCI, that's my role. I engage the PC, we write, and we say the docket will then be moved to the DPCI after engaging either General Mboto or General Nkosi. I think for me that needs to be clarified, because this is where, again, Chair, the misnomer is happening, or actually is.
Thank you, General. We are now in February, and you've explained that you received the letter from
Nothing. Sure, I would do honestly.